Hello, good morning on this fine Thursday. Hope you're doing well. It's, when you're on a roll, just be on a roll. Do you know what I mean? 2 days in a row. I know I posted yesterday, and all the little things I posted, it said that this is usually Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays because it usually is. And here we are uh, of a Thursday, having a chat. But why not? I thought, hey, why not? Why not have a chat on a Thursday just to mix it up a bit, just to keep you on your toes with when I'm having a chat. It could happen any time. Hey, you just have to keep an eye, and bang, up it pops. The way to find out, because I explained yesterday that I can't figure out how I used to do the multi-streaming thing. I'm going to have another look at it today. Streaming at different platforms. So the way to find out is to give the YouTube channel a subscribe, and I think it pops up to say that that the live is going ahead. But maybe you listen to it later, or whatever. Just have a listen, because it's good fun. There you go. One of the things I forgot to do yesterday, which I'll try and remember today, was that I was going to do some gratuitous plugs for some of the things I've been doing. And I think I did mention the website, shortsmedia.org, which is where everything's going to move to. So it's going to be a bit of a mashup of the self-care stuff I do, the social work stuff I do, and the music I do. So all sorts of things coming along. So I just thought I'd something popped into my head. I was just having a read through my Obsidian Vault looking for something, and something popped up from Oliver Burkeman's 4,000 Weeks. Brilliant book, absolutely brilliant book. If you want a book that kind of sets you on the right path, I suppose, gets you thinking about life and what have you. Really good, really good book. I know a few people have read it as well, who love it. So that's Oliver Burkeman's 4,000 Weeks in the plethora of kind of self-care, productivity, kind of life flow books that are out there. All fall under that umbrella in one way or another. Burkeman's book stands out head and shoulders above the rest, as do one or two others that I do keep mentioning, but I'll just mention Burkeman, and I'm going to mention one or two others as well this morning. Well, one in particular. And what struck me when I was flicking through some of my notes was that I kept coming back time and time again to this thing that I say a lot of the time when I'm doing presentations and when I'm talking on here. Set your intention, then pay attention. And we live in this distracting world, which means that, first of all, sometimes we don't actually set our intention clearly before we start a task or before we start our day. And the planning of the day is absolutely crucial. If you don't know what you're going to set out to do, how do you know when you've done it? How do you know when you can then stop? This is the important thing, isn't it? Obviously, my profession is social work. Your professions might be different, but I think we all fall into the trap, and social workers do, of working late and just keeping going. And I think part of that, I mean, there are all sorts of systemic reasons for it, but part of that is that if you don't set out your stall that today, these are the things I must achieve. These are the things I could achieve if I have the time. These are the things that I must achieve tomorrow. These are the things I could achieve. These are the things I must achieve the next day. These are the things I could get round to. Or now those things that I could getting round to now need to be achieved. So we're moving there. If you're not doing that, then the likelihood is you kind of fall into the trap, I think, of just keep doing things. Whereas if you clearly lay out, today I must do these things. And again, I accept systemic problems where sometimes there's just too much to do. If you don't set that out clearly, then how do you know at 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, whatever, you think, right, okay, I've achieved what I need to do today so that everything remains on track and in order. Not done. We're never going to get caught up. Everything's never going to be done. You're never going to get to the end of the week in the modern working environment and think that's everything done. Great. See what comes in next week. That's not the way it works. Not in the majority of professions anyway. So I think, part of that setting your intention is, I think I've often focused on the paying attention bit. Once you know what you're going to do, then pay attention to the doing. But actually the setting your intention is absolutely crucial. Figuring out when things, as soon as you know something needs to be done for some point in time, no matter how far in the future, break that down and set your intention. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? Build your slippage in, that kind of thing. None of this was what I decided to talk about this morning, but build your slippage in. When am I going to do it? When is it required? When am I going to do it? Build slippage in, and then don't move it unless you absolutely have to, and do it, and do it till it's complete. That kind of thing. All those kind of things I talk about. Do it till it's complete. Run through the finish line. All those kind of things that I talk about. Run through the finish line. Get it done. So it's important that our intention setting is deliberate, that we don't just embark on the day and go, right, I'll see what happens today. I'll see how much I can get done. No, don't just see how much you can get done. See what needs to be done and do all of that. And if day after day there is too much to do that you can never get what needs to be done today done, then there are questions there, aren't there, at organizational levels and that kind of thing. But back to Burkeman in his book, 4,000 Weeks. I really like this. Some of this is a quote, but I'll kind of paraphrase as I'm going. I wanted to capture it all. And it's really good. I'm 56. I know it's hard to believe. 56. So this kind of resonates with me right now. And I talk about this sometimes with friends and what have you. Getting old helps, he says, because the awareness that time is drawing to a close, death. The awareness that time is drawing to a close makes it increasingly untenable to live for the future, because there isn't one, or not a long one anyway. And he says at 20, it's easy to imagine that real life hasn't properly begun yet. At 40, that becomes a bit of a stretch because it should have by now. And at 60, he says it's plainly absurd to think that life hasn't begun yet. So it becomes ever easier, he says, to face what was true all along, that actually, however old you are, this is real life. There's no impending moment of truth, he says, when you'll finally feel in a better position to do whatever it is you really want to do with your time. The only viable moment you have to do anything is now. Live in the moment. And you'll have heard me say that before, and you'll have heard many people kind of say that before. This is the point at which any sane person, he says, will feel at least a modicum of regret. You grasp the truth that life isn't a dress rehearsal for something better, but you desperately wish you'd figured that out several decades sooner. Live for the moment. Embrace all of these things. Seize the moment. Refusing to live fully on the grounds that you ought to have lived more fully in the past is folly. Refusing to live fully on the grounds that you're still waiting to live fully in the future, folly at my age, for people my age. So he says that's where he describes it as cliched advice to live in the moment comes from. Not about meditating yourself into a particular state, not about that kind of thing, but just embracing the moment to moment stuff. Setting your intention and then paying attention to what you're doing. I think we, and again, I'm connecting dots up here, things that I've talked about before. I think we've become experience collectors. We don't actually fully experience things sometimes because we're too bloody busy with our phones out taking photographs of it and sharing it. We don't just immerse ourselves in it. We don't just sit and look at the ocean. We have to take a picture of it and post it somewhere. And there's nothing wrong with photography. I get photography. I get taking pictures of things to capture essences and moments. But sometimes I see people it's just if that's what it's for, that's fine. Photography is a brilliant art medium to capture things and create something and take a snapshot of time. But what you're doing it for is because it's Instagrammable. Then we're in sticky wicket. So we become experience collectors, moving from one experience to the next. I'd argue, and as I always say when I'm talking about this stuff, I'm pointing the finger at myself just as much as anybody else. And this is not a kind of, here, you guys sort yourselves out. It's here, let's all sort ourselves out. We move from experience to experience, only experiencing the moment at a shallow level because we're constantly driven by capitalism, I'd argue, and consumerism to move on to the next experience. Well, that's that experience done now. Let's move on to the next experience. I've Instagrammed it. I've done whatever. Let's move on to the next thing. And we live in this distracted world, and mobile phones, I'm not an anti-mobile phone or social media at all by any stretch of the imagination, but there are some interesting things about it, and it's how they distract us. So this is the other book that I mentioned, Distracted by Maggie Jackson, a really good book. And she says this, from William James, put more simply, this is about attention. We're getting back to the title, pay attention. Put more simply, attention defines us and is the bedrock of society. So paying attention to things is literally the bedrock of society. Paying attention to each other. You know, how many times have you and I, and you see other people with somebody they care about, or with their friends, with family, that kind of thing, and they're just paying attention to their phone and not to each other. But paying attention defines us and is the bedrock of society. Attention, William James says, is the taking possession by the mind in clear and vivid form of one out of what seem several simultaneous possible objects or trains of thought. So there are a million things that I could be doing right now. There are a million things you could be doing right now. Okay. There are a million things you could do next. Right. But we need to clearly and vividly take possession of our minds, pick one of them and stick with that one till we've completed it, or till time to do that thing runs out. You know, I think time bound and stuff is really important. And it can be hard to predict how long something's going to take. That's one of the problems. There's a thing called the planning fallacy, which I've talked about before. The planning fallacy says we tend to underestimate how long large tasks take. So if you're constantly underestimating how long large tasks take, you're not getting them finished. So that's where slippage comes into it. So we need to pick the thing and make that the object of our thoughts purely. Yeah. What else does William James say? Attention. This is your deep work tunnels. Attention implies withdrawal from some things in order to deal effectively with others, and is a condition which has a real opposite to being confused, dazed, and scatterbrained. So it implies withdrawal from some things in order to deal effectively with others. So if you are about to sit down to, I don't know, as a student write an assignment, or as somebody who's working to write a report, or to go into a meeting and be in that meeting 100%, you must withdraw from all the other things to do that effectively. And the other E word, efficiently. If you withdraw and go into deep work tunnels, so you do this thing to the exclusion of everything else, then you will deal with it effectively and efficiently. You do it faster. I never like to use the word faster because I think it sends the wrong message. But ultimately, if you're doing something efficiently, it will take less time. Therefore, it'll feel like you've done it faster. You're not working faster in the moment. You're just being more efficient because you're not getting distracted. And Maggie Jackson describes that we are cultivating lives of distraction. There's so much we can be doing. There's so much to be done, and there's nothing wrong in doing lots of things. But in the doing, when we're in that doing of that one thing, we have to do it with depth. Because the other word that she uses about the way we live our lives, which I think is brilliant, is we're living diluted lives. Because when things start to encroach into events, activities, then we dilute those events. So if you're watching something on Netflix, I bet you've all done this because I do this all the time. I'm watching something on Netflix, right? And what I'm doing is I'm on my phone checking other things while I'm watching the thing on Netflix. And sometimes I'm actually looking to see what I can watch on Netflix next while I'm watching the thing that I'm watching. How mad's that? So you miss what's going on. You miss what's going on the thing that you're trying to do. You dilute the experience of watching that show on the TV because we've cultivated lives of distraction. A year-long study, Maggie Jackson talks about, of the workplace found that workers not only switch tasks every 3 minutes, during their workday. Just let that sink in. Workers switch tasks every 3 minutes. What job do you have in your working day, apart from the little bits, email and responding to an email, making a phone call? But the core of your job, how many of them things can be done in 3 minutes? Year-long study found not only do workers switch tasks every 3 minutes during their workday, but that nearly half of those times they've interrupted themselves. So it's not just colleagues interrupting us or email interrupting us. That's one of my big bugbears. Or Teams things popping up and interrupting us. Switch them off. We interrupt ourselves, The word intention is rooted in the Latin words ad and tendere. That's where the root of the words come from. And those words put together mean to stretch toward. And that implies effort, doesn't it? And setting our intention and then paying attention. It's hard. And I'm a fan of the Stoic philosophers, as you probably know. And they say, yeah, that's kind of the point of it. It is hard, I was listening to Jordan Peterson, a little clip. It was on TikTok or something, wasn't Jordan? And he said exactly that. I can't remember the exact words he was using, but he was kind of saying, if it's not hard, you're doing something wrong. It should be hard, because by making it hard, you are stretching towards it. You're applying effort. You are enhancing and improving yourself. That's what you're doing by doing that. So it comes back to that William James quote from just before. Everyone knows what attention is. So we've decided what we're going to do. We're going to pay attention. Everyone knows what attention is. It's taking possession by the mind in a clear and vivid form, one out of what seem like several simultaneous possible objects or train of thoughts. And the only way you'll figure out which one thing it is that you're meant to be doing right now is through planning, meticulous planning. Once you know some things to do, plan it, get it in your calendar, break it down into all the constituent parts of the tasks, and then pick those tasks up one at a time. Pay attention to them when they're ready to be done. So there you go. I'm not even going to show you the things that, don't forget, go and find the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would really, really help me. The other thing that really, really helps me to get word out about all this stuff is for you to like and retweet or like and repost or whatever the content. That would be really lovely. I would love you forever if you would do that for me. Give me a follow, give me a subscribe, leave a comment. It's really nice when I get little comments. So leave a comment so that I know you're out there. Okay, have lovely days. I don't know what's going to happen now because I've just thrown it all up in the air, haven't I, by doing Wednesday, then Thursday. But I'll probably do Friday as well. You are lucky people. Okay, enjoy Thursday. See you soon.